So a Venus retrograde is 7 to 8% very rare in a chart, and it happens probably about, I think it's every 18 months for about 40 days. So we're talking pretty rare. And when I wrote it down, I always like to use my celebrity examples, and the people who came up were interesting, and I thought they even went one way or another with this. They were either ultra feminine, Mariah, Carey and Gazelle. I can never say her last name, Giselle. I don't want to butcher her name, butcher it, but very feminine, very ultra feminine. But Giselle could be considered a tomboy as well. And also Courtney Love and Amy Winehouse. Now they're the ones that jumped out at me as more masculine types. Amy Winehouse, very self-sabotaging. She didn't really start feuds with people. She could be like that, and she would be like she had a feud with Alexander McQueen I didn't know anything about, where she like spat on his dresses and stuff. It wasn't great. That's just the sort of thing I could do. And obviously it depends what sign it's in, so what it's going to show more. There's a bit in that Amy Winehouse documentary that the parents didn't like, the 2015 one, where I think they actually might have sued these people. Anyway, in a part of it, and I don't like to give this person much credence, is Blake. He says, I asked Amy why she was so masculine, why she was like a guy, why she acted like that, like sexually. And she said it was something to do like with her childhood that made her like that didn't care, that she'd just do that. And I don't think she had that many partners, but who are we to know? And she also swung on like the bisexual spectrum. And she had Leo and Mars in. She had Leo in Venus and Mars. The Venus was a retrograde. And she was born in 1983 in September, so she's a Virgo, but she had some very Leonic energy, and you can see that by her vulnerableness. There's one photo shoot. See, these people are either very self-sabotaging or sabotaging to others. Courtney Love is one where she's both of them, I believe, which you can be. You can be a victim and you can be a victim and a martyr maybe at the same time. She loves having feuds. She will pick someone. She's her own publicist. That Libra in her chart, sorry I've gone over to Courtney Love, I'll come back to Amy Winehouse. She has a very close relationship with the media, and if you know anything about Courtney Love, you know that she does her press, She's like, no publicity is bad publicity. Honey, I think it is. No, she won't be right, because she's getting talked about, basically. That's what she's saying. Yeah, she's being talked about, which, yeah, so she's being talked about by the media, and that's good to her. She made a lot of money. She actually was big in this Britney Spears movement. Let's not forget the human debris that is Sam Lofty, or whatever you want to call a dick, was also part of her life, and Courtney actually has a restraining order from him, would you believe? I just heard that he was caregiver to that Angus guy out of Euphoria as well. That made me really upset for him. That man needs to be looked into deeper. He can't just blame the Spears family, because he's done stuff that is just as bad. Anyway, getting back to Courtney. So Courtney's been in a lot of feuds. After Kurt died, she was with the guy from Evan Dando from Lemonhead's, not a well-known band. And there's a picture of her in bed holding a doll, and she's kissing bed, and she's like, she looks wrecked off prescription drugs, whatever, yeah. We've all been there. And she's holding a doll that remains Kurt's ashes, which, yeah, everyone hated it. The rise of Nirvana. The Nirvana fans hated Courtney. I mean, I was too young to know at the time, but yeah, a lot of Nirvana fans are anti-Courtney Love, which I totally get. like my ex-boyfriend got me into Nirvana, and he hated it. He saw me like a year ago, and he's like, "Why the hell are you wearing a whole necklace?" I mean, Courtney is iconically stylish, like Amy Winehouse, and her Venus is in Gemini. What I was saying, that mischievous Gemini energy, which is good with words, good with the publicity, but then her Leo Mercury, which isn't a great sign to have your Mercury in. Honestly, it's not a bad thing. I'm just saying it's not a great placement. So that's where the people find her arrogant and dogmatic, bossy, self-obsessed, is coming from that Leo Mercury, but with those mixing with that Gemini Venus and that Gemini Mars, it's all coming through together. And then with the Libra rising and the Cancer Sun and the Cancer Moon, it's a recipe for disaster. I personally love some of it. I love Cancer placements, and I kind of like Gemini placements. I'm not, if anyone who watches me, they know I'm not. Libra's on my worst sign. Yeah, Libra's on my worst sign. I just can't tolerate a lot of that behaviour that they do. And I've met a lot of them, so don't be like, oh, why don't you like us? I'm sure there's some nice ones of you out there, I'm sure. Okay. It's just, I don't have any air in my chart. That could be a thing, so don't worry. I'm heavily watered, don't worry. I'm heavily traumatized. So then you have Mariah Carey, and yeah, I'm coming back to Amy. You have Mariah Carey, who grew up as the youngest child, mixed race, in black and white areas, with quite a posh opera singer. There's this documentary, I don't know if it's still up on YouTube, where they do 3 parts of Mariah's life, and it's her talking about it. It's a recent-ish book that Mariah wrote, and she obviously did her voice with it, and it talks about her 2001 breakdown. It talks about her relationship with her mum, her sister. So, right, okay, Mariah always feels eternally 12, okay? Feels eternally 12, protected, going back to that trauma. The trauma being her sister, bless her soul, who was just as beautiful as Mariah and could sing, is a prostitute. Yeah. She now has HIV, I think. But when Mariah was younger, and let's consider, I think she's about 12 years older than her, at around 12, 13, she tried to pimp her out to someone and basically sell her sister. There's no other way of putting it. But you can see Alison, who's her sister, talk about, God, Beyonce's mum looks like a witch, talk about her systematic ritual abuse from the system. So who knows whether Mariah's mum was into all that, and that's what caused her oldest daughter's trauma and heroin addiction. I think I think Mariah already felt like, why do I look different from my siblings? Okay, I'm mixed, I'm lighter. I live with my mum, they live with their dad. I never knew she was until I got older, and it was apparently obvious to me, and it screamed out of me, and it's stupid. But sometimes when you're young, you don't think of some things like that, which is good, not to see colour, I think. You just see people for what they are. So yeah, she took the trauma and made herself very feminine. Now her Venus is in detriment, you call it. Same with another Venus sign, and they're both Martianian ruled Venus signs. So that's Scorpio and Aries. So Aries ruled person, they're going to be passionate, they're going to be quick-tempered, they're going to be fiery. I believe she's got a Cancer moon. What's her rising sign? What is Mariah's rising sign? If anyone, oh, it's Taurus. So she's a Taurus rising. You can see, it suddenly popped out at me. You see, with Taurus risings, I notice it's like quite chunky, collagen-y, beautiful, cow-like, cute, and that, I'm not saying that in a horrible way, because I think Taurus risings are gorgeous. You really see that in her looks, and they can be tyrants too, don't get me wrong. A lot of like dictators are Taurus risings, trust me. Let's not put anything about this, but she said she's turning 12, and you can see it. with her dresses, with her way, with her spirit. She got groomed, sorry, this is how I see it, by Tommy Mottola when she was like 19 years old. I know I just butchered his name. I think so. He was a man, as Mariah says when she talks about it, with far much more experience in every sense of the word. He was a 40-year-old man. She was 19, 20 years old. He left his wife, he left his kids. And then what he did with J-Lo, I find despicable. He literally took everything about Mariah, but stole voices off everyone else for J-Lo. And I just find that so wrong how he did that. He just completely changed, completely copied Mariah's whole look, whole way, but then followed her, took her sample for Loverboy, and then made her J-Lo do a duet with Ja Rule and of Gotti, the producer, just to fuck with her. Like, mate, if you're in your 50s or whatever now, just get over it. These moguls are horrible people, I believe. Horrible people. And then Amy. So Amy, I would say, was more of a self-sabotager. She definitely wasn't a victim. Let's get one thing straight. She wasn't. But she didn't like herself, let's put it that way. She definitely struggled with an ED, I believe. She definitely did. We know this. Her brother spoke about this, and her brother hasn't spoken much, but when he spoke about it, he spoke about this. And on one photo shoot, when Blake had fucked her off again, she had carved into herself, and there was blood, and they published this saying Blake. She's like, look at my tummy. I think he was actually there, like, oh god, it's so bad. And I'm gonna say, as a Leo Sun and Leo Rising, we are wounded people and we feel things very fucking deeply. And you can see with Amy in her hair, she's so Leo-like, but she's so Virgo-like at the same time. It's just a nice mixture of the both. Two great signs. She was a tortured soul. She wasn't a natural performer, but she was a studio singer. She just didn't feel the stage. It wasn't natural to her. She could have lived off the money she had. So look, there's a few examples of the Venus retrograde and what it might do to a person, how it might present. And there's a few different ways it could present. Thank you.